That I never thought, like, I knew it was hard. I didn't know it was the hardest job, like one of the hardest jobs in the world. That I'm the only one crazy enough to do them. I'm the only crazy person. I'm the only person that's gonna go run the bleachers in 115 degrees. I can't get anyone else to go do it with me. No one.
Yeah.
So I have to be able to push myself, and sometimes it's really hard. I need to stop babying myself. Like, if I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna be out there doing it, I might as well just do it. So I went out there and I did the most I ever had. I did a bleacher mile and a quarter.
We're talking about your high school experience, and college football was always the dream. Oldest in your family, so you didn't really have like siblings or anything to kind of pave the way. Is you trying to figure out, okay, is this even something that's achievable?
Yeah, so it was a lot of learning as we went. My parents didn't really know. They were just luckily supporting me and helping me, play that sport that I wanted to play and give me the gear I needed and give me the practices.
Right.
So that all leads up into junior year, and that's when things started to get a little bit more, real.
Mm-hmm.
So I made my shift towards running back and fully committed to that. Started doing a lot of training outside of high school to get faster and stronger. And we hit season and started about half the games. I shared reps with one of the other senior running backs. Had a great junior year, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm getting stronger. I'm getting faster. I have good size. Like, this is a possibility.
Sure.
To go play at the next level. So that summer, or I guess after football season, I ran track. I ran track as well sophomore year.
Yeah.
I wrestled freshman year. I wasn't as technical as I was just strong. So
right.
The technicality of wrestling.
Sure.
I just was a little late to the party, I guess. People that were smaller than me were kicking my butt with these technical moves, and I was just trying to just pick them up and body slam. It wasn't quite what I thought wrestling was. It was very much not sumo wrestling.
Yeah, you're going full WWE.
Yeah, so. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to muscle my way through it, and they're sitting there spinning around my legs, and it was. So I did wrestling freshman year, and then I did track halfway through my sophomore year because I had an injury that kept me out for the first half. So I really started track junior year. So when I was like, okay, college is achievable, I need to go really commit into a second sport as well to make myself look better.
Right.
And I was pretty excited. So ran track junior year, got pretty fast. I really enjoyed it. I ran the 100, the 200 meter, the 4x1 relay, and then I did a little bit of the 4x4 relay.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed my time doing that. And then summer rolls around, so I'm done my junior year, and I started to go to these college camps. And I went to a college camp probably the first week of the summer after my junior year.
Right.
And I got my first offer. It was from Lake Forest College in Chicago, Illinois. Yeah. And that was the craziest moment of my entire life. I didn't even know if it was real. I didn't know what was going on. But just performed well at this camp. They loved me, and I got my first offer, and I'm like, man, I checked that box off. I'm like, life is complete.
Right.
And so went home, and, it just pushed me more.
Yeah.
And went to a bunch more college camps that summer. Got a bunch more offers from schools all over the country.
Yeah.
Nowhere close.
Yeah.
You got Illinois, you've got Florida, you've got Wisconsin, Arkansas, Georgia, Oregon, like all over the place.
Yeah.
And
what level were they?
So at the time, that summer going into my senior year, they were all pretty much Division IIIs.
Okay.
So the levels, obviously, you have your Division I, you have your FBS, which is your University of Arizona, your ASU,
right,
your BYU, Oregon, all those kind of things. And then you have FCS, which is your NAU, your Montana State, the University of Montana, Idaho State, the University of Idaho, those kind of things. Those are your FCS Division Ones. Very high football. It's just slightly down because of the students. You're not at a school with 100,000 students. You're at a school with 50,000.
Right.
So you're still at the Division I level, and then you've got Division II, and then Division III, and then you have your NAIA, which is schools that don't want to have to worry about all those NCAA rules. Mm-hmm. They're their own thing.
Right.
So they can recruit year round. They don't have these dates that close, these blackout dates, and
right.
so they're their own thing. And then you have JUCO, and so the time was pretty much all Division threes that were coming through that summer, and I go into senior year, and I had a great senior year. I scored a lot of touchdowns. I had a lot of great runs. I started to get noticed a little bit more. Got some more offers throughout senior year. I got my first Division II about halfway through the season, and then towards the end of the season, I was about 20 offers, and I'd say about 5 of those were Division II.
Mm-hmm.
The other 15 were all Division III.
Oh, okay.
And then there were some other JUCOs, and by then I'd been offered by a few JUCOs and a few NAIAs, but I didn't have my eyes set on that. I wanted to go play, big name ball.
Yeah.
So senior year finishes up, then I run track my senior year, and I was like, I'm going to use that still as an athlete to hopefully bring in some more offers. So by then I'm still hunting, I'm still working, I'm still reaching out to coaches on Twitter, now X. That's where all the recruiting's done.
Really?
Yeah, so everything's done on X, and
what's that like? Is just for people who don't.
So I mean, it's really just adding thousands of coaches, and you're copying and pasting a message, and you're changing the name, and you're throwing it out there with your information, and there's a very specific way to set up your profile with your height and your weight and your school and your GPA, and so it's just DMing coaches and hoping that they get back to you, and some don't, and some do, and I mean, I got quite a few offers that way. Then they look at your film, and then they want to hop on a call, and then they like the way that you can speak about yourself on a call.
Yeah.
Then they'll go talk to their head coach about you, and then that's when they can make the strings to, throw you an offer and be willing to put money into you.
Right.
So
on your X, do you put clips of yourself on there too, so they can kind of see?
Yeah.
Or okay.
So I mean, that's my football highlights, my weightlifting, videos from weightlifting, videos from track season, videos from, even community service. I was in National Honor Society, so I was posting stuff about that. Just everything that could make me look very well rounded.
Gotcha.
So
interesting. Okay, I didn't know that because there's, I was training this one kid yesterday in basketball. And he's a little kid, so he's not doing any of that yet. But I don't know who it was. Somebody was talking to me about what's the, does the landscape of sports look differently, or how competitive is it now? And so that's interesting here because I think it's gone way competitive on how people are reaching out, and
for sure.
And social media, obviously, 30 years ago that wasn't even a thing. So that process has changed a lot. So that's interesting. Anyways, so keep going.
So it used to be, sending mail and stuff, and now now it's pretty much on X. That's just where all the coaches are.
Yeah.
Or it was email. Then it was email, and now it's coaches don't really, check their emails. They're not getting their inboxes flooded. It's all on Twitter.
Yeah.
So, so it was a lot of reaching out on there, posting everything. It was a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so I ran track my senior year. That went great. Ran the 1, the 2, the 4x1, and then the 4x4. I ended up qualifying for the 4x4 for state, so my relay team ran at state. That was great, and again, just stuff that I can put on my resume and throw up on that account, and I'm able to tell coaches, hey, I'm running at state this weekend, and it's just an eye catcher.
Sure.
So ran at state, that went pretty well. We didn't win, but it was such a cool experience.
Yeah. And
was able to tell coaches that, and right at one of my last track meets before state, I got a message from Northern Colorado University. So that's a Division I FCS. So they're in the same conference as NAU and stuff like that. Big Sky.
Right.
Big Sky football. And I got a message from their running back coach that I'd gone to his camp that previous summer. I'd been, bugging him and sending him all my stuff, and that's just what you have to do. And cause you'll send 30 text messages, they won't respond to them, and then one day they'll respond and be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I appreciate you keep reaching out, and and whether it's a no, or in that case he was like, hey, I'm so sorry, I've been so busy, I haven't gotten back to you, but let's hop on a call.
Yeah.
And the next day or two, I was like, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And so I hopped on a call with this Division I coach, and he was like, I love what you have to offer. I can tell that you really want it because you keep sending me messages, you keep shooting me all your videos, and you're staying persistent. And I got offered. So that was my first Division I football offer, and that was really when life felt complete. I was like, that's all I'd ever wanted. That's all any kid's dream is to go play Division I football.
Right.
And nowadays with the transfer portal, which is a whole nother conversation, it's crazy. You have these 20-year-old kids that are transferring that already have Division I experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so who would you rather have? Would you rather have the 20-year-old that, just got done playing 2 years at ASU, but he got his job taken away or he didn't like the coaches, and now you could take him, or are you going to take a 18-year-old high school student?
Right.
They tend to lean towards that transfer portal. They already know what's going on. They already have that Division I body.
Yeah.
They're used to those procedures and protocols, and so it's gotten a lot harder. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's gotten very competitive, and this landscape is very different.
So when did that change? Like the transfer portal, was that when they did all the NIL type stuff as well?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So it was, the last 3 years, it's like, honestly, I'd say a few times a year things keep changing.
Right.
The NIL keeps changing, and then now they're cutting spots and trying to make it to where, football, men's football brings in a lot of money.
Right.
And so they get a lot of money given to them, and now they're trying to make it to where, like, the scholarship money is equal for every sport in the college, and then that takes away from football, because instead of having however many millions they have to divide up and keep it even between that and women's volleyball and their golf team, and it all has to be even, and that then gives them a lot less scholarship money to hand out.
Right.
So college is getting more expensive, the money is going down, and so people keep going, no, well, you had great grades and whatnot, like, did you get a full ride? They don't do full rides anymore.
Right.
It's just everything's divided up. So they get a certain amount of money, and they'll give you a few thousand or whatever it is, and that's it.
What was the thought process on those changes?
It was hard because it made my life a lot harder.
Sure.
Life was easier. Guys before me, they were the hot topic. Those high school, those young guys, those prospects were highly sought after, and that was because that's where you got the next up.
Yeah.
And now it's you're getting that guy that just got done playing somewhere else, and again, he didn't like his coach, he didn't like whatever it was, or he lost his job or something, and he has that experience, and so it was kind of demoralizing.
Yeah.
It was hard to see all that hard work, and it's just, you feel like you were just getting slapped in the face, and so then the Division I football out of high school, kind of the dream slowly kind of is becoming Division II is kind of the new Division I for high school athletes, because it's really hard to get straight into that level. Or you have a lot of kids nowadays that are going and putting in a year at JUCO so they can continue to grow and eat and get bigger, and then hopefully have a little bit more better film than high school.
Yeah.
And then transfer up to like a Division I or what like that. And so the landscape is completely different. It's really hard to just go straight from high school to Division I now.
Yeah. Do you think that those are good changes or bad changes? Because and you're more familiar in this space than I am. So with athletes in the Division I bracket, right? Are they hanging around longer because they're making more money, and because there was a thought process at one point, you see this along like the NBA, they play a couple years in college, and that's like, I'm going to go make my money and play the pros, right? But are athletes hanging around longer in the college division because they want to make money and they're making good money, or do you think they're transferring, they're still transferring quite a bit?
Oh, for sure. They talk about how some of the NFL quarterbacks like Caleb Williams and stuff, like he was making more money in college than he is now with his NFL contract.
Right.
The rookie contracts can't even keep up with how much NIL money they're getting, and they're getting paid to play by the school. Talk about not even just a scholarship. They're giving him millions to play.
Right.
And so is it good? Definitely not. I don't think that it's fair. You have these young guys that deserve their opportunities, and there's a lot of hidden talent that then slowly gets brought up after they go through JUCO or whatever like that. But it's just unnecessary steps and more money that's spent elsewhere.
Right.
Because they're not getting that opportunity or the looks that they used to.
Right.
Now it's coaches really just, they look to the portal first. You know, they're going to look for those 5-star, 4-star ranked athletes in the portal, and they'll just keep going down. And once those are drained, we're all that's left, and then that's where they, you know, pick up their last few guys sometimes.
Right.
So it's really unfortunate for kids nowadays. I don't think that it's super fair.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, go where you're supposed to go, play the game that you love because you love the game, not because of money. And obviously things happen, but when you're talking about 200,000+ athletes hitting the portal, I mean, they had it was 40,000 the first day that the portal opened.
Right.
The portal, and it makes life a lot harder for a lot of other people that then don't even end up getting the opportunity.
Right. Yeah, it just oversaturates it, and then you're just kind of,
Yeah.
you know, last item at the bottom.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a lot of guys getting, because obviously if, let's say you go to JUCO or you go play a year at Division 3 or Division 2, just trying to get that shot to maybe get looked at after they're done looking through the portal. Do you think it's adding a lot more injuries or wear and tear on guys having to play at that lower level to try and
Absolutely.
get a look? And, you know, do you think that's causing more damage or?
100%. You know, every play that you play on that field is a toll on your body.
Right.
And so I have friends that are out playing JUCO right now or went to go play Division 2 and they're trying to get to that Division 1 level, and it definitely takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your wallet.
Right.
It takes a toll on many different things, and then, you know, from just having to move to multiple different schools, that's not cheap. And then you have your issues when you're running into, if you don't get enough scholarship money, you're putting in all your eggs in one basket on that plan that you're going to get moved up and then get basically paid to play.
Right.
Because then you're losing all your first year college scholarships, and you're getting those injuries that you can't plan for.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in the best shape of your life and, you know, try and focus on, you know, being aware of where your body's at in that pile or whatever, but there are just sometimes things that you can't control.
Right.
And so it definitely has done a lot more damage, and it's really hard. It's really hard.
Do you see them, because I know I think you start hearing these type of things a lot, where some of the, you know, I think NIL originally kind of a good idea. You know, there was a lot of money being made as getting these college athletes an opportunity, but then there's, you know, obviously the flip side of that, and these other opportunities that are lost, or people are transferring like crazy from different schools because they don't like the coach, or they don't like the culture, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Have you heard if there's any plans to make changes to that, or if they're adapting how they're doing things at the college level to make it easier, or what have you heard, because you've been in the system a little bit?
I haven't heard anything recently. I mean, right after I got that offer, and I'm kind of looking into that world about money and those kind of things, because out-of-state tuition is crazy, and
right.
Colorado is out of state, and I noticed that, I mean, there was changes, it almost felt like weekly. That there was, and some of them were small and some of them were big. That's how many changes were going on right as, you know, the college season was wrapping up, you know, when my season wrapped up, and, you know, there's talks about a lot of different random things, but it's hard to get things to go through.
Right.
And like you said, NIL was great, and I do think that it is good, and athletes deserve to make some money and stuff like that, but it just has made it a business rather than, it's taken the game part away and it's made it a business.
For sure.
And it's sad to see for someone that truly loves that sport, and it's done so much for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, it's sad to see it go as a business now.
Yeah, well, you see like families and parents where they, you know, now that they see that's the kids starting real young, they're getting them involved in the sport, and then they're grooming them all the way up to try and get to that level and hopefully make money at that level too. So I agree. I do think it's kind of turned it a little bit more from being about the love of the game to being more about, hey, let's go make some money here and try and transfer. I think that's the hard part too, the transfer portal. I didn't think about that, but that does add a unique kind of more complex nature to the issue.
Yeah, and it's trickled down to the high school level.
Really?
Like when I was telling you, my parents, in a perfect world, honestly, I wouldn't have gone to the school that I went to.
Oh, okay.
I would have gone to another school that was even bigger and maybe had a really good coach for my position, and maybe gets more looks from colleges. They have better reputation to have these great athletes. So more college, their games are more visited by college athletes or coaches, and because that's the thing now. I mean, parents are taking their kids to schools 30, 45 minutes away every single day, just so that they can go to a school better for that sport and give them a better opportunity.
Interesting.
So it's literally a thing now in high school, and they have some rules against well, the rule is if you do that, then without moving houses and stuff like that, it is you can't play the first 6 games. But kids are doing that young, maybe their freshman year, and then it doesn't really affect much. But they're at a different school, and it's made it to where things were more even, and all these 6A schools had 200 plus kids on their football roster.
Yeah.
And now you've got schools with 400 like Hamilton, and you've got schools like Desert Ridge where we had 100 split between all 3 levels.
Okay.
It's crazy.
So now like even the high school programs, it's like you get some of these big dog programs and people are just trying to hunt for the perfect kind of fit for them.
Oh yeah, there's youth teams where they start out, when I started out at like 6 years old, they're meant to go play for them. This one team, say it's the Hamilton Huskies, their youth team is the Huskies.
Yeah.
And they start playing them with Chandler Youth Football League, and they start them 6 years old, and they are meant to play all the way up and feed straight into Hamilton High School, rather than you're not just taking me, some random kid, and throwing them on that team. Like they call them feeder teams.
Right.
And they're just constantly feeding in kids to that program, and they're already being taught the Hamilton way. And
the
same
method,
thing goes for Basha and Highland. All those teams that are really successful, they all have those feeder teams and it starts from a very young age. So it just keeps trickling down younger and younger, and by different age groups, and it's crazy.
That's wild. Yeah, that's I didn't think about that, but there is that is crazy how young it can start. What's the what would you say the top team in Arizona is, or the obviously you mentioned a few of those, but what's kind of
the top dog right now is definitely Liberty High School in Peoria.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know a whole lot about them, just that they've probably for a few years, no one can beat them.
They're the program.
The only team that comes in and beats Liberty is that some of the out of state like California or Nevada teams.
Mm-hmm.
They get to go play some really cool out of state games.
Jeez.
But a very, very talented program. But again, they probably have 600 kids.
Oh gosh.
In their football program.
In their
split
football
between
program.
like 3 different. I wouldn't be surprised. Like it used to be this way. Like Desert Ridge used to have 2 freshman teams and 2 JV teams in the varsity. I wouldn't be surprised that they probably have 2 or 3 freshman teams, 2 or 3. It's crazy.
Jeez.
But they're definitely the top dogs, the team to beat in Arizona for sure.
Gosh, wow, and that's like 600 just in their program alone.
Oh yeah, I mean that school, and then they've probably got a few thousand. The cutoff for 6A football is about 2,100 students. Like Desert Ridge was at 2,000. So out of those 2,000 students, we had about 100 kids that played football. Jeez. Then you have a school like Hamilton. They have 6,000 students.
Right.
They have about 450 to 550 students that play football. And so, I mean, I know they have multiple. They have like 2 JV teams. It's crazy.
Jeez. Yeah, it's funny how when you start looking at their some of these massive schools and the athletics, and I mean, those programs probably bring quite a bit of money for their school as well.
100% for
their
sure.
Program, and so.
In that school district, school districts shift things around to make other schools look better. Unfortunately, nowadays it's a weird thing. I know the boundaries get redone so that they can feed some kids to certain schools that they want to be the face of the district, and there's some. It's crazy.
There's some games played in this
absolutely,
at that level. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's funny. Jeez. Okay, so you're kind of you got this D1 offer, right? Sorry, we went off into the explanation of it, but you had this D1 offer, Colorado, right?
Yes.
And so for you on your journey, you've been playing. You had a great senior year. What was kind of that next step? And obviously, you're not playing college football now. But what led to that decision? And where did your journey take you next?
Yeah, so I'm a religious guy.
Yeah.
I went into that track season, and honestly, with the goal to get that Division One offer, I get the Division One offer now, and so then I start to talk with that coach, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, so what are things going to look like? What is my, the next question is, well, how much money do I get? With being a good student in high school, pretty much my college was paid for in Arizona, no matter where I went.
Right.
And so
you had like 4.0 grades as well, right?
Yep. Yes, I did. So definitely stay on top of your school. Super important. One thing I learned at those camps, those coaches will come up and they'll shake your hand, and before they even ask you what your name is, they ask you what your GPA is.
Really?
If you can't look them in the eye and tell them a good GPA, good luck telling them your name, because that's, they want to. If you can get it done in the classroom, you're way more likely to get it done on the field.
Yeah.
And in the weight room, and in the community. So that was definitely something that I learned. But so I get talking with them about scholarship money, and with Colorado being out of state, with us being in Arizona, it was pretty darn expensive.
Right.
And even academics-wise, being a 4.1 GPA student, I didn't get nearly as much academic as I would have thought. And then with my athletic money, it wasn't much either, and I was going to be stuck still spending $15,000 out the door.
Jeez.
And not too horrible for college these days, depending on what you're doing.
Right.
Some people would be like, that's not bad for college. For me, being able to have my school pretty much paid for down here in Arizona, and that being my goal in my life. I'm going to kick butt in the classroom so I don't have to go into any debt.
Right.
I was really struggling seeing that number and being like, oh man, like I finally got the opportunity I've dreamed of, but I just don't see it. Like, I don't know that it's worth it. Do I set myself back in life? What it kind of felt like to go into debt.
Right.
And so I'm wrestling with that decision. And so by the time I'd verbally committed. So I told him I'm committed, but I hadn't signed anything. I didn't do my national letter of intent. I was waiting to do that. But I was verbally committed to the University of Northern Colorado. And so track season finishes up. I went to state. I was a religious guy, so I'm using that to kind of hopefully guide me on what I'm supposed to do. Do I go continue to play? Do I go do something else? Like, what do I do? And so then I actually had the opportunity to go play in an all-star game. I was selected as one of the best in Arizona to play on this Arizona versus the California all-star team.
Okay, yeah.
So I played in that. That game was in January, so all through December we're practicing, and we have this game in January. And I was like, I'm going to use this football opportunity. Like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Am I supposed to go spend all that money and go play? Because the other thing was I could bet on myself, and I could go and pay the first year, and maybe I get more scholarship money somehow because I am a better player than they even think, and then I end up maybe getting a full ride. Because when I say they don't do full rides anymore, typically about like maybe 2 on the whole roster
really,
will get a full ride. Other than that, everything's divided up. Some are 90% though. Some are 80. Then it goes down to, okay, we're going to give you 30%.
Right.
It can get all the way down to nothing.
How big are those rosters typically at those levels?
Probably about 50 something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to the NFL, like a
Yeah.
52-man roster.
Sure.
So right around there.
So that could really, you could run out that money real quick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I was trying to use that all-star game to kind of guide me, okay, what do I do? And so I played that game, had a great game, but it's still, I didn't get any clarity, which is kind of hard. I was like, dang, that was my last like kind of sporting moment that I know of right now if I don't choose to go the college route to play football. And so kind of just got back into training. I'm still thinking, luckily they were Colorado was being pretty chill and lenient about me, being verbally committed, but I hadn't signed anything yet.
Sure.
And that's when, so I get back into training, and I then had a life experience where my dad had a little accident, and I raced home, and Mesa Fire Department was already there. And I watched them, and this is like right after track season, and I'm watching them take care of my dad. And it was something that was really cool to see in my home.
Sure.
They took care of my dad just as I would have if I had the skills and ability to. And So you have, these EMTs and these paramedics, firefighters in my house taking care of him in this little chaotic situation, but they all knew their jobs. It was super smooth, and the communication was there, and it kind of reminded me, just coming off track season, of like my relay team. In a fast-paced moment, crazy chaotic, nothing seems to go quite to plan, but smooth as fast, and they were super smooth. They took care of my dad just as I would have if I had the ability to.
Yeah.
And that was something really cool to me. So if I backtrack about 2 years, I took a tour at a fire station with a Mesa captain that I had grown up with. I knew him.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I've always loved firefighting. I've always loved firefighters. And that was really cool being inside of a station. I'd never been inside of one before. And he was like, when you turn 18, come on a ride along.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so cool. I'm going to do that. So I turned 18, and I turned 18 the day before my first high school football game, my senior year.
Yeah.
And so obviously for me, there was no time. Life was way too crazy. Practice after school every day, school, games, recovery on the weekends. There was no fitting it in. And then it was straight into track. And so then I had kind of slightly forgotten about that ride along, but he came by on my birthday and brought me this folder, Mesa Fire folder, and it had like the permission, let's slip, liability form in it, and you had a little note inside, can't wait to have you on a ride along.
Yeah.
And I hadn't had the time to do it. So after that night where my dad had his accident and Mesa Fire came, I went straight up to my room, found that folder, and filled out that thing, and I called the captain. I was like, when can I do this ride along? Like, I need to make it happen. And we're still in school and everything like that. And I just took school off one day, went like 2 days later, and it was the coolest experience of my entire life. And I knew right then and there that that's what I was supposed to do. So the next day I called up that college coach and told him, I'm not going to play football anymore. I'm going to go be a firefighter. And that's when I got some interesting feedback from a lot of these coaches that were kind of frustrated, and they were like, you can go do that any time in your life. And I'm like, well, if I can play, just like we were talking about those injuries, what if I go and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go like play 4 years of college football and then I'll come back and be a firefighter? What if I had an injury and I could come back and not be able to be a firefighter anymore? So I had to make the decision that worked best for me, and that allowed me to then, do school down here, completely paid for, and become a firefighter and start making money rather than pay $15,000 to go be in Colorado. And all of a sudden everything clicked and it made sense, and I knew that was God telling me, you're supposed to go be a firefighter, and that's what you're going to go serve. And so super cool moment. And then from then on, it was just constant networking and just a grind. I was super determined to just get in anywhere I could, do as many ride-alongs as I could. So I started contacting Chandler Fire, Phoenix Fire, all these different departments. So I started to do a bunch of ride-alongs with them and got to do a lot of cool hands-on stuff and be with these stations for 12 hours out of their shift, and running calls and some really real-life big kid stuff. It was pretty cool. And that then inspired me to go get my EMT. So this past summer I got my EMT, so now I'm officially a nationally registered and state certified EMT, and got that because I love the medical field, and that was the next step towards fire. So long before I ever put on my first set of turnouts or stepped foot into an EMT class, I knew I always loved firefighting from a young kid dressing up as a firefighter for Halloween. And then that first ride along, I always had a little, a deep love for it in my heart. Yeah. And I guess it was kind of covered up by football. And then when I finally found out, like, this is what I'm supposed to do, it's just been full steam ahead. I'm now in talks with 6 different cities currently. I'm in their 6 different cities hiring processes right now, and just trying to get hired on, start young, and, I can give them it's a 25-year career. Yeah. That would put me at 43. I could retire. I'm hoping that I could do 30, 35, and give them a great 30 years of quality service as a young guy. And just completely committed to that path now. I know it was what I was supposed to do, and I haven't looked back since.
What would you say that ride-along experience was like? Because, I don't think... It's cool hearing your story, because I think a lot of young people having that clarity of what they should do doesn't happen very often. And I tell you, one thing that I think is slightly different is, making the choice, right? Sometimes people have that opportunity that it's telling them, hey, do this, but then they just ignore it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what was that ride along like? Because that was kind of a unique experience, and was there anything in that ride along that really kind of gave you that clarity?
So, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad, first off, that I wasn't hasty in my decision. All my life I wanted that offer, and I finally got it. And it was weird. Like, obviously, at first, I was, like, super excited to post on my Instagram and tell everyone, like, I could be a Division I athlete. Like, I'm a Division I prospect now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad but then it quickly set in that something didn't quite feel right. And that was interesting because that's all I'd ever wanted.
Right.
But so I'm super glad I didn't make a hasty decision.
Yeah.
And I, listened to those thoughts and, just let everything play out, because then it became very apparent to me this is what I was supposed to do. So that first ride along, that was with Mesa Fire. It was with this captain that I had known. And so I show up there and, again, fascinated by this station. And so we get a first few calls and, you're going code 3 somewhere, lights and sirens, blowing through red lights, and you're, going to help someone on their worst day.
Yeah.
And, someone has something completely tragic happen, and you're the first one that they call. You get called to go do anything, and you have to be ready for it. You could get a fire. You always have to be hydrated. You could, it's super unpredictable. It's very, it's such an adrenaline junkie job.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love to stay moving. So, I love to work out. Who doesn't love to get paid to work out,
right.
when you're at the station? And the brotherhood was something that I noticed on that first ride along. They were all so close. And it again reminded me of track. And that's something that I've used in some of my fire interviews that I've had, is from that experience that happened at my house, watching them smooth as fast, take care of my dad. The communication was on point. Everyone knew their job, and the execution was absolutely perfect. When I walked in that station, you have 4 guys on a truck. They're all the brotherhood was awesome.
Yeah.
They just genuinely cared about each other. They are the family away from home. They do everything together for, depending on their schedule, 24 hours, 48 hours, and everything. And they see a lot of stuff together. They do a lot of stuff together, and the bond that they had, I was like, wow. Like, one of my favorite things of track and football was that team brotherhood. I'm still going to get that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it's way stronger because it's more tight-knit. You have 4 guys, not 30 guys. They're all forced to be best friends,
right.
Brothers. You don't have those groups on a football team when, you'd have the linemen are really close. The wide receivers and DBs are really close. And it was kind of, obviously everyone got along, but you had your little groups.
Sure.
Sure.
If
they go out, they're all going out together.
Yeah.
They're not going out in 3 different separate little groups on the weekend. So
that was really cool. Could be life or death too. You're going out to save a life and help people in need, and so you almost have to have that, camaraderie and that closeness, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they have to be able to trust each other.
Yeah.
Because, you don't know. Oftentimes when you get that, dispatch from 911, sometimes it's great information. Sometimes it seems like great information. You get there and it is nothing like that. You get something that, we have someone's having an anxiety attack, and you get there and they're in full cardiac arrest, and, the next thing you know, you're working them. Right. And then you have a code, and then a code is someone that's dead.
Yeah.
And so you have to always be prepared for anything. Like I said, the hydration thing is huge in Arizona. You could be on a TRT team, which is a technical rescue team. They'll do the mountain rescues, the swiftwater rescues, the close quarter extrications. And, Arizona being a huge hiking thing, you get a lot of hikers that,
sure.
So Superstition Fire, Phoenix Fire, they stay very, very busy with, their mountain rescues. And who knows, if you're not hydrated or taking care of yourself and you get a mountain rescue and you're out in the 115 degrees rescuing someone else off a mountain, you could very well be the next person.
Right.
So you have to be ready, not only just being in long-term shape, but you also have to be hydrated and make sure that you're rested and recovered. And so, yeah, very, very unpredictable. And if you can't trust the guy next to you, it's going to make it a long shift. And when those life or death situations come along, you got to be able to trust those people.
Right. You know, it's interesting hearing you talk about, you know, football, athletics, track, and now firefighting and being an EMT. Just the passion that you have for whatever you're doing. And a lot of times, the other podcasts I have on, we kind of tailor our conversations around, you know, resiliency and those type of topics. And so I'm curious because I think a lot of young adults, like, they don't necessarily have that same passion, and you know, or they haven't, or maybe they haven't found it yet, or they, you know, they don't know how to pivot when maybe their life goal has changed. So where do you think and maybe it's from athletics, where do you think that grind, that passion, that resilience, where do you think that comes from, and how have you built that, and how has it helped you?
So, man, it has been the biggest help. You know, it's not an easy career. Yeah. I never would have thought that a city job, you could put it, would be as hard as it is to get into. You know, most people, obviously, you don't look at a firefighter and be like, oh, that's going to be easy to get into, or that's an easy job. But I would have never I would have never known that it takes, on average, people 3 years to get hired.
Really?
Yeah, it's a very competitive space. It's hard to get hired. They say that those fire service interviews are one of the hardest interviews like there is in the world.
Why is that?
Just the questions that they ask, and they're looking for very specific answers. They're looking for a very specific person, and each city is completely different. You know, there's a lot of differences. Not each fire truck is the same. They're pretty much all different. They're all set up differently. Each city is completely different, and they're all looking for different types of people.
Interesting.
So a lot of the testing processes, it's almost like a personality test. You know, you have to answer it how they want you to answer it.
Right.
It's not necessarily there's just a right or wrong answer. Sometimes there's two right answers, but okay, are you this type of person, or are you this type of person?
Right.
And it's hard. It's tricky, and so I hate to say that they try and trick you, but it's almost like they try and trick you.
Yeah.
And so I've only had one in-person fire interview so far, and that was with Chandler. And you know, it was a very intimidating experience walking in there with two fire captains and having this interview, but I learned a lot, and now I'm going to take that and apply it in my next interview, which is going to be Tempe Fire.
Right.
And, you know, then Mesa and Scottsdale thereafter, and hopefully, you know, make improvements after each one.
Yeah.
But, so, where did that grinding grit come from? I'd say, honestly, it was building lifelong habits since I was born, really. I've just always grown up not being able to sit still, just always doing something. Yeah. Always doing something. And I just think it was those lifelong habits. As you know, when I get a little older, and you know, meal prepping, I've meal prepped for like the last 6 years every single week, not because someone told me to, but because I was dedicated to refueling my body, and you know, giving myself the nutrition that was needed to be the best, because that's something that I could control right away.
Sure. You
know, people are going to school and they're getting their school lunches, and I'm bringing a meal prep in my lunchbox, and I'm going to, you know, a teacher's classroom to heat it up, just so that I was making sure I was getting the food that I needed, because that's something I could easily control.
Right.
You know, I might not have been blessed with the Division I body right off the start, you know, and you have to build that. Yeah. And so that was something that I could quickly change, so I've just stuck with that, but that taught me dedication, being able to stick to a long-term goal. And so, and then just working out, like, you know, being an 18-year-old, I love to lift like a bodybuilder. Yeah. You know, everyone wants their big arms and their abs and whatnot. And so obviously, like, there are times where my goals have shifted. Like, you know, I'm lifting to be a great football player. And luckily, there's a lot of parallels from athletics to the firefighting and the fire service. And so a lot of it was able to very easily transfer over. But, you know, all my life I've lifted like a bodybuilder. But then I was mixing in stuff to functional for football. And which is a little bit, you know, the functional for football is a little closer to the functional for firefighting than bodybuilding.
Sure.
But, being able to get myself into the gym even on the hard days. And sometimes I had to sit myself down and go, I was busy. I was nonstop moving. I'd already maybe done a workout that day, but a different type of workout, and knowing my job's not done. Like, I have the ability to work out when some people don't. I'm gonna go take advantage of that, and getting in there. And because my friends that I lift with, they're sitting there when I'm fighting there for that last rep. They're some might think it's funny, but they're like, there's a kid like upstairs. Like, you need to go get that kid. Like, that last rep is you exhausted, running out of air, and you have to get up that last flight of stairs and go get that kid out of that room in this burning building.
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, like, it does mess with your head to the point where you kind of almost get that little superhuman strength and you can push through.
Yeah.
And so that's been really cool. But I'd really just say it was those lifelong habits my entire life that have kind of led me to be a great athlete, and then which then I was able to transfer over and put that passion, dedication into firefighting. Because if you don't put passion and dedication in anything, at the end of the day, what are you doing?
Right.
You're wasting what God gave you and the ability to be able to do that. I'm so blessed that I have the ability to go lift heavy weights and then go and then do it multiple times a day. I'll go lift twice a day, and then I'll go run the bleachers. And the fact that I can do that, and then I have the ability to recover quickly, and I'm just grateful. So just trying to take advantage of what I was blessed with, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of people don't value, like you're saying, don't value what they've been given, but also maybe don't realize what they really have, and
Sure.
and that's something I think obviously you build over time. You're not gonna know your full potential right off the bat, right? It's through going back over and over again that you realize what you're capable of. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize what they're capable of and take advantage of their abilities, what they've been given, and all the opportunities that are in front of them. Because even, as you mentioned, the fire process, it sounds like it's quite similar to that, football recruitment process, reaching out, following up, staying on track and disciplined. And, there's a lot of tie-ins with athletics, a lot of lessons that can be learned in athletics that can be really well applied in any aspect of your life. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of those type of tie-betweens if you're putting forth the effort, right?
Yeah, that was a great connection between the football recruiting and the fire service, process. It's a lot of networking. It's a lot of checking up. It's a lot of learning. When you sit there and you learn about those schools before you hopped on a phone call with that coach. So when he goes, so what do you like about Northern Colorado University? And if you just sit there and go, I don't know anything about it, then how am I supposed to tell him, why would he put money into me, if I can't convey that I want to be there, I know anything about the school. If I wanted to be there, I'd know about it.
Right.
So it's looking up and learning about call volume for these cities, how many stations they have, who the leaders are and what they're like, what are their mission statements, what are their values.
Right.
And, because at the end of the day, if they don't align with you or make sense, or if you don't have some connection to that city, why are you gonna enjoy working there for 25 years? Are they gonna enjoy working with you for 25 years? So it's definitely very similar to that recruiting process, and it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
A lot of processes. I would have never imagined getting hired on by a city would be so difficult.
Yeah.
But through multiple different tests that are personality tests, and then tests about human resources, and then these interviews. Some are online, some are in person, some do them backwards. Some have an intern first so they can weed out the people that can't work as a team and who just are not physically fit for the job before they interview. And that's how you earn an interview, is by going in, okay, I could work with this guy for 25 years, and he is fit enough that if we go dump $60,000 on him in the academy to get him geared up and all that, then he can handle that.
Right.
And others, they'll interview first and then they'll do an intern first, and so like I said, each city is completely different, and I found that interesting. You would think, oh, each fire truck's the same. Each fire truck carries the same stuff. Each city, at the end of the day, they all have the same goal to be, the first one in, and they help you and whatever like that. But they are very different. Each city has different. Not every city has a TRT team, technical rescue squad, or a hazmat team. Most of the major cities down here do, but not every single city in Arizona has those special teams to handle those type of situations. So that was something that was definitely interesting to me as well.
Why is that process different for every city?
I think it's kind of just about the demographics of where they're at as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, I feel like every city should have a TRT team, because in Arizona, whether it's heat or around the lakes, they do swift water rescue stuff sometimes, and things like that. Like, it is obviously always needed, but it's like a demographics thing. It's a size thing. Sometimes they just don't even have the money. Like those, these smaller cities. Like I said, Gilbert, Tempe, Mesa, Phoenix. Like, they have no problem. They're big, and they absolutely need that stuff. But some of the smaller cities, it's a funding issue. Maybe some of those smaller cities where I'm talking, like, we're looking at 2 fire stations rather than 12 to 15, like Phoenix and Mesa and whatnot. So yeah, it's interesting. And then it's just each city, as far as like setup for those trucks and what they carry on it. Again, it's demographics, their needs for those specific areas. And not all fire trucks aren't the same brand. You have Pierce ones, you have Rosenbauer, and they're all completely different. So I've done ride-alongs to all these different cities, and they show me the truck, so I know which boxes I'm grabbing on a call, and it's different every time. And so you definitely have to get familiar with a lot of different things, not just the call volume and what you're going to say in your interview, but also when you get that job, the differences that you wouldn't think of as far as like that truck. And you're working with different guys when you're picking up overtime and how they do things. Each station does things a little different. When you get used to working with those same people, that's not how it is. You don't get chosen either. You don't get hired on, and I'm going to be at the same station for my 25 years.
Right.
They'll move you every few months, especially as a probationary firefighter, which is your first years of being on a firefighter.
Sure.
You'll get moved around, so you have to be a very good people person, being able to work with different people, and they have to be able to work with you. So.
Right. When you've been on the ride-alongs you've been on and kind of experienced some of the firefighting and EMT firsthand, what's been probably the most important thing you've learned / maybe gained or seen that you have skill set you need to have when you're out there, or even that others have that you're like, this is going to be interesting?
I definitely probably say communication and people skills would probably be first, as an overall like umbrella is the most important, because it starts off in the station, being able to get along with those 4 guys on your truck, and being able to enjoy that time so it's not miserable, because there are times where some cities are 48-hour shifts.
Yeah,
you're living with them for 2 days. You can't hate each other. Like I said, you're getting called. Someone calls you on their absolute worst day, and you have to be able to show up, and whether it's 2 a.m. and you're half asleep and you're mad someone called about, because you'll get a call, someone's having an allergic reaction, you get there and they just have some hives on their arm, and you're like, you just woke me up at 2 a.m. for this? But there are other times where it's an allergic reaction, they're in anaphylactic shock.
Right.
And, they're about to go into cardiac arrest on you too. And so it's being aware of that anything can ever happen, and that they're calling you on their worst day, and just being able to stay calm and bring peace to the situation in the best way that you can, because they're pretty chaotic, for obvious reasons. And so being able to communicate what you're doing to the other firefighters, so they know what's been done, what's being done, and what you're seeing, because again, there's a lot that they do on those calls when you get a medical call, depending on what it is, or even a fire as well. You have 4 different eyes going around looking at the building, you're seeing, making their calls on how they're going to attack the fire, or I run on you and you're going into shock and everyone's getting different vitals, and maybe all your vitals are normal besides one. So, and I'm the one that is, checking your blood pressure, and I notice that your blood pressure is really low. Everything else is fine. I have to be able to communicate that right away and stay calm. And the other weird thing that most people don't think about is, like, if I just start yelling, like, oh, his blood pressure's super low, like, that's not a great way to communicate either, because then you're going to freak out. That's going to cause even more issues. So it's also being able to find out how to communicate in the situation that you're in, so you don't freak out the patient, you don't cause more chaos, you're not being, giving extra information, because, everyone's focused on doing their things. You can't just sit there and yap. You gotta right. Be concise, and get the information that's needed, into whoever's hands that's gonna, determine the next plan of action.
Yeah.
So I definitely would say communication, and then just people skills is kind of hand in hand with that. Just being able to work with others, being able to calm others down, and being good with kids. If you deal with a lot of kids, whether you're running on them or you're running on their parents, and there's kids around, or
right.
A lot of situations. So definitely just probably communication and people skills. Something that I learned a lot before my EMT class. Those ride-alongs really helped me, medical field wise. Just like being able to visualize everything that I was being taught out of this textbook and these slideshows. I, helped put, a 12 lead on someone before.
Right.
So I was, I knew a little bit, and then I was like, okay, they're not just telling me that I'm gonna need to know this. Like, they're not lying. Like, I haven't, because I've seen it done in person.
Yeah.
So learned a lot that way. Those ride-alongs taught me a lot, and then I'd say the other big thing that I learned, because no one talks about it, and I would have never known, is when you're a probationary firefighter in your first year, you're the youngest guy in the station, you're considered the booter. So that's typically, if you're the youngest guy, you're probably the newest guy in at that station.
Right.
And you race to the phone when that phone rings. You are the last one to sit down eating. You're the first one done eating, so you're up cleaning up and offering to grab everybody else's plates. You're not sitting in the recliners. You're not facing the TV when you're in there for a ride-along. And you're eating, you always have your back to the TV. You always find you're never sitting around. Everyone else is taking naps in the station. You're out cleaning off the rims on the fire truck.
Right.
That's what it is, and you have to be excited about that. Like, for me, I am so excited so that everyone else can go take a nap and I can go sit there and shine up the fire, truck rims. Like, to me, I'm excited for that. And if you're not, like, that's a telltale sign it's probably not for you. And so stuff like that was definitely something I learned from those ride-alongs, was the role of a probationary firefighter and being the booter in the station. Sometimes they have two booters. You have two guys that just got out of the academy, and then you're racing that guy to do everything. And I mean racing. Like, there was a phone ring. I was so confused on my first ride-along when the phone rings, and they get up, almost knock two chairs over, and they're racing to grab the phone and body slamming each other into the wall. Like, it's that competitive. So definitely learning about the probationary booter life.
Yeah.
Your first year on, being the youngest guy, I learned a lot about that. Again, seeing it in person, because no one tells you about that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, those are definitely things you got to be, you got to experience that, right?
Absolutely.
But you make good points. Like, you got to be willing to put in the work. And I think that's really what it boils down to,
Absolutely.
right? If you're not excited about the work you're doing, if you're not willing to do the reps in the gym, you're not willing to race to the phone, knock another guy over to get there. What are you really doing? You got to be excited about it. You got to be willing to put in the effort.
Absolutely. And something that I learned, honestly, and I learned this after I'd say the other day, it was actually from watching some YouTube videos from some guys that go around doing these hard things. He does stuff with Navy SEALs. He does stuff with the Army and all these things. He did a video with Phoenix Fire the other day, and I obviously know that it's hard. I do a lot of training. I have my own set of turnouts. I, went on eBay and bought my own air tank and SCBA mask, so I'm doing stuff like on air and, really, I'm similar. I could walk into a fire. And I'm at my high school running bleachers in 115 degrees in full turnouts, and it's completely miserable. It is absolutely horrible. And, I'm dying. I'm dumping sweat out of I'm turning my boots over and dumping out sweat at the end of my workouts. Like, it's nasty.
Yeah.
And so I know it was hard, and I knew it wasn't easy. It's kicking my butt, and I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
And I watched that video, and hearing all those Phoenix Fire captains and this guy that does stuff with the Navy SEALs, that they all refer to it as the hardest job in the world. And I never thought about that. I never thought, like, I knew it was hard. I didn't know it was the hardest job, like one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Yeah.
And putting that in perspective, you know, when I go and run bleed, I have to do a lot of these workouts by myself because people say that I'm the only one crazy enough to do them. I'm the only crazy person. I'm the only person that's going to go run the bleachers in 115 degrees. I can't get anyone else to go do it with me. No one.
Yeah.
So I have to be able to push myself, and sometimes it's really hard. And I'm not going to lie, there are days where I go out there and I get through a quarter of my bleacher mile, and I'm done. I'm fried. I can't get myself to push myself any further. And there are other days, you know, last night I went and did a bleacher mile, and all day I'd just been kind of like motivating myself. I'd been like seeing a lot of motivational stuff on Instagram and stuff like that, and oddly enough, like I was like, I need to stop babying myself. Like, if I'm going to go there and I'm going to be out there doing it, I might as well just do it. So I went out there and I did the most I ever had. I did a bleacher mile and a quarter. And so a mile and a quarter, and full turnouts, on air, and the feeling that I got afterwards was just a sense of accomplishment, knowing that, wow, I just did the most I ever have and accomplished something that I haven't accomplished in the last few months. Noticed growth, because I would not have been able to do that 3 months ago when I started doing these type of workouts.
Yeah.
But no, so hearing those things, like, this is one of the hardest jobs in the world, not only to get hired on for, but then to just completing the fire academy, and especially these summer academies, and like, it's crazy. So that really engraved in my mind. I need, if I want to be a great firefighter, which that's all I'm going to accept to be, is a great firefighter.
Yeah.
Then you got to push yourself to be the best and to be in that great shape, which is top notch. It is nothing compared to football. I thought I was definitely in football shape. I was in track shape. I, am throwing around great weight at the gym, and it was kicking my butt. So firefighter shape is something different for sure.
Jeez. Yeah, you can push yourself as hard as you're willing to push yourself, right?
Absolutely.
And that's one of those things, is like, you got to keep on pushing the limit, obviously safely, right?
Yeah.
But and maybe sometimes unsafely too. I think growth's never comfortable, right? And sometimes you gotta push it. And so, but just keep working that growth muscle, right? In whatever regard, right? It might be mentally, it might be physically.
Absolutely.
But I think if people keep trying to grow, like, that's the goal, right? Each day, just try and grow a little bit more and push yourself a little bit harder. And that's what makes the big impact in the long run.
For
right?
sure. In everything in life, it's unfortunately it's so slow going. It's almost, you don't notice it.
Right.
And
right.
honestly, typically you feel like you're taking steps backwards. If you're really doing it right, oftentimes you'll feel like you're taking a step backwards. I felt like my workouts were getting worse.
Yeah.
And I was kind of telling myself, like, maybe it's just because it's getting hotter. I'm doing it in the hotter times of the day on purpose, and like, maybe that's why.
Mm-hmm.
But then I noticed yesterday when I did that, and I really pushed myself past those boundaries, and I'm like, I'm not stopping until I hit that mile and a quarter. I'm not going to stop depending on how I'm feeling. I'm going to take myself to that point, no matter how slow or fast I finish it. And I finished it fast, and I was like, I made a lot of progress.
Yeah.
A lot of progress. And that was really cool to see, because, I hadn't noticed it. And I was honestly like, I felt like I was taking steps backwards. I'm like, have I really been babying myself that much? So, but it's a very functional job, and sloppy costs lives. That's something I heard the other day. And so sloppy in my own workouts, that could cost someone's life if I'm not fast enough. That could cost my life, because if I decide to get sloppy and, I use too much of my air and get into a situation where I run out of air, then I'm not only obviously putting myself in a horrible spot, I'm then putting someone else in a horrible spot to come save me.
Right.
And, I don't want that to ever be the case. I don't ever want to have to be about to save someone. And I'm like, wait a second, like I'm almost out of air and I have to go take care of myself first, because you always take care of yourself first. And I don't ever want that to be an issue. I want to go into the academy. I want to be in academy shape. I want to go be first in my academy, and that's the stuff that drives me. And it's easier for me, I feel like, now, like going into this first responder position, like sloppy costs lives.
Yeah.
And I really do put that picture in my head sometimes of, I have one more person to go save. Am I going to really let myself stay on my knees or laying on my back like I am right now? Or am I going to get up, go finish the job, and then you can go, chill in the air conditioning and whatnot? And that's been an eye-opener to me, and has helped me kind of push past that, your mind that goes first.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, man, I feel inspired. As I love your ethic. I love your passion. And like I said, when I was talking to your mom, I was talking to Jules, because they've obviously known you a long time.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. And then the few times we've met, that was one thing I noticed. You got a strong work ethic, a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and purpose, which is fun to see, fun to talk to. And then also, I think, uncommon in a lot of scenarios where life's easy, right? Life has become easy. It's easy to just do nothing, sit around, and let that time slip away if we really want to.
Yeah, for sure.
So I appreciate having you come on. I appreciate you taking the time. And real quick, I want to know what's your PR at the gym, because you are quite jacked.
Thank you.
The bicep veins are popping. The lighting's real good too. So it's like,
I'll take it. What lift are we talking?
Let's go bench press, and then let's go squat. What are your two?
Okay, so bench press right now, we're about 315. Is the most I've ever hit.
There you go.
And then squat, the most I've ever hit was 515.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's something for firefighting that, again, I love my bench press, but there's not much in firefighting that it quite, changes to.
Yeah.
That makes it functional. I still bench multiple times a week.
Sure.
But no, it's legs, lungs, and grip is what I'm really working on right now. That's the LLG is what they say for firefighting. So, pretty blessed with some good leg genetics, I guess. I've always loved squatting, but really working on that grip and those lungs, which has been pretty humbling. So.
What are you doing for the grip? Are you doing like the squeezies, those grip squeezes they have?
I've actually never done that before. I've messed around with like ones that my friends have had.
Yeah.
But a lot of towel hangs. You'll throw like a towel up on a pull-up bar.
Yeah. And
you're holding the towel. Sometimes I'll do pull-ups, because again, I'm not good at standing still or hanging still.
Yeah.
So towel stuff. Me and my friend used to throw these 25-pound, like the rubber bumper plates. You throw them back and forth to each other.
Okay.
Then we got really good at the 25, so we started like flipping them and then having to like track it and catch it on the flip.
Yeah.
And then we were starting to do some 35s, but typically we were doing the grip at the end of our workouts, so it was a little rough doing the 35s.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do 45s with two hands, because you're still catching with your fingertips. It's surprisingly pretty heavy if you do it with those rubber bumper plates, so because they're nice and thick.
Yeah.
But so that's pretty much my grip so far. And then now, because those firefighter gloves are darn thick, like it is unbelievable the things that I can do without those gloves on. The second I put those gloves on, it almost feels like just a straight up strength reduction.
Right.
Like it really is. Like you're pulling ladders and you're pulling this nylon rope, and I could sit there and do it all day with my hands or with regular yard work gloves on or something.
Yeah.
And when I tell you that it will just slip through your hands, and like decently strong guy, it doesn't matter. If you don't have good like forearm strength and grip strength in general, you're gonna look. A guy like me looks really silly when he's trying to pull a ladder up, and this ladder's like coming crashing down, slipping through my hands, and it's humbling for sure. Yeah,
well, those gloves, I bet they probably take a lot of the touch away. Yeah. Well, I guess that's probably our cue, but Ryan, like I said, it's been fun to have you on, and we'll have to obviously get you back on once you get into the fire academy and then make it into one of the departments, and it'll be exciting to hear some of the stories and where life takes you. But like I said, the passion, the ethic, it's there. It's great to hear, and so thanks for coming on.
Well, I appreciate it, Neil. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.